Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Pause.
Turn. Look at audience with reassurance. Calm.
Smile.
Radiate authority.
Say date and time of show. Here we are, folks.
Do not touch Senator's 6-year-old.
Right. Date and time of show. 9 a.m. East Coast. 6 a.m. West Coast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Daviler. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Pleasure to see you all here this morning. Thanks very much for being here today. We got a crowd filing in on YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. This is a midweek stream now. We are hosting the Jimmy Dore Show once again tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. But we want to thank you guys all for showing up early this morning. Can we get a little Dolly Parton this morning to get everybody in the mood here?
We absolutely can.
I feel like, we need a little pick-me-up here. We need a little pick-me-up. Put a little pep in our step. You know what I mean?
To the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition.
Yes, there you go. There is a lot going on in the world this week. None of it particularly good, but
what
some of it pretty funny.
Needs now is love, sweet love.
That's right.
We're gonna do it. That's what we're gonna do with the live show. We'll do that as a sing along with the audience.
Yes, indeed. Maybe we can round it out with a musical number. By the way, folks,
we have Jesse Jet. I'm sure he can learn that.
Yeah, I'm sure he could. That seems like a fairly easy one. Still some tickets left for the shows, folks. We got 10 left for the day show. Now we got 3 left for the evening show. So 13 tickets left between 2 shows. So if you want them, get them. DoDissidents.com/day show for the day show, /night show for the night show. That's how all of that goes. So thank you guys very much for being in here today. We're going to get right into things because news around the world is sad this week. It's a bleak week. Let's not sugarcoat things, folks. The deep state is back in charge. I mean, they got their war funding, they got their censorship bill, they got Trump off the campaign trail. I mean, they're looking like they got this shit. Go ahead. Beautiful. Hit that like button, folks. Hit that subscribe button, everybody.
That yoga paid off, man.
Yeah. Indeed. The deep state is in such control this week that you might forget that we live in a free country. It doesn't seem like this country is very free. But this story, folks, will assure you this is still the land of the free because only in America you can now buy a flame-throwing robot dog for under $10,000. You in the audience, you and me and Russ and Jimmy, everybody, we could all get
Any schmuck.
That's what they should have titled this. Any schmuck can now buy a flame-throwing robot dog for under $10,000. So see, the government hasn't won yet, folks. We still have some of our freedoms that we're hanging on to. From Ars Technica, If you've been wondering when you'll be able to order the flame-throwing robot that Ohio-based Throwflame first announced last summer, that day has finally arrived. I wasn't wondering that. In fact, I didn't even know about this until I saw it. But for those who were, now you have confirmation. The Thermonator, what Throw Flame bills as the first ever flamethrower-wielding robot dog, is now available for purchase. The price, $9,420.
At last, the ancient dream of our species is made reality.
Yeah, exactly. Thermonator is a quadruped robot. It's like the Safaka lemur. That's what this reminds me of.
Move sideways.
Move sideways. It's a sideways quadruped, like the Safaka lemur. With an ARC flamethrower mounted to its back, fueled by gasoline or napalm. It features a 1-hour battery, a 30-foot flame-throwing range, and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity for remote control through a smartphone. Doesn't sound like something vulnerable to hacking by bad actors at all.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
It also includes...
I mean, it's too bad. They should really reboot Columbo, because that would make a great Columbo episode. Just one more question. Why exactly did the robot flame-throwing dog turn back towards your husband suddenly?
Just one more thing. I noticed you left your iPhone in the bathroom about 3 minutes before the robot dog did an about face toward your husband's car. Yeah.
That's very, some people might call that suspicious, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just asking. It also includes a LiDAR sensor for mapping and obstacle avoidance, laser sighting, and first-person view navigation through an onboard camera. The product appears to integrate a version of the Unitree Go-To robot quadruped that retails alone for $1,600 in its base configuration. The company lists possible applications of the new robot as wildfire control and prevention. Wildfire prevention? A flame-throwing robot is meant for wildfire prevention?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like forest management, they're saying. Like controlled burns. That's what they're saying. You could use it for the controlled burns.
But can't you just put a fire out? Oh, I see what you're saying. So if they have to like they could take this to like the East Palestine wreck, and they could use it to like the train car.
Sure.
There you go. All right,
good example. Yeah,
I'm sure they would love to have some of these arrive there in that town. Agricultural management, ecological conservation, snow and ice removal. Snow and ice removal, that makes sense. That seems fairly harmless. And entertainment and SFX. Well, yes, I have a feeling that's going to be the majority of use. Yes, for entertainment purposes. But most of all, it sets things on fire in a variety of real-world scenarios. Back in 2018, Elon Musk made the news for offering an official Boring Company flamethrower that reportedly sold 10,000 units in 48 hours. It sparked some controversy because flamethrowers can also double as weapons or potentially start wildfires. Yes.
Oh, can they?
Can they? Flamethrowers are not specifically regulated in 48 U.S. states, although general product liability and criminal laws may still apply to their use and sale. Well, general liability, I mean, criminal laws apply, of course.
You can't light your neighbor on fire just because the flamethrower itself is not regulated. That's a helpful safety tip.
Right. I mean, frying pans are not regulated very tightly either. You still can't, bash your husband's head in with one, right? Yeah. So I guess in that sense,
not unless you have a good alibi.
Exactly. They are not considered firearms by federal agencies. Specific restrictions exist in Maryland, where flamethrowers require a federal firearms license to own, and in California, where the range of flamethrowers cannot exceed 10 feet. Even so, to state the obvious, flamethrowers can easily burn both things and people, starting fires and wreaking havoc if not used safely. Accordingly, the Thermonator might be one Christmas present you should skip for little Johnny this year. So, folks, let's see this thing in action.
Ain't that America? You and me.
Let's see this thing in action, folks. Here's a little bit of the commercial for the product. Now, the brand's, smart enough, wisely enough, they were able to get away with this for copyright purposes. They used a copyrighted song, I believe, from the Oppenheimer soundtrack, which we can't show you on YouTube. So I scored this myself using some of our copyright-free countdown music, which I think works better. So let's take a look at the robot dog, the Thermonator.
I think so, too.
Yeah. in action. Here we go, folks. Let's get ready to rumble. So here he is. He's walking around. He's got the flashlights. You can see where he's going.
Man.
Now we're going to see the laser aim soon. See, now you got the laser aim. And now watch what this thing can do. Here we go. What the fuck? This is a consumer product. Look at this.
Only in America, baby.
Yo, they want us to start doing ad reads. We might start doing ad reads for Rumble. We should pitch this product.
This is a product I could get behind.
They'll have to send us one so we can try it out.
Trolling the comments section. Well, if we got the product for you, make your repressed rage, anxiety, and insecurities real. Act on your frustrations in real-world scenarios.
I mean, if they send us one, we'll try it out. We'll bring it to the live show. We need a house manager for the live show.
We do.
Just for security purposes, someone to check tickets and stuff at the door. And so this is a good candidate. We keep them on the stage, keep you all in line, make sure nobody does anything, make sure nobody gets crazy. Yeah. Oh,
Why
man.
aren't you laughing?
Yeah, right.
Laugh!
Exactly. 4 more years. Pause. Let's go. Let's go. Chant. Wow.
Yeah.
What a country.
I will say, in all seriousness, the locomotion technology is pretty impressive. The way that thing can jump, like it clearly has that they simulated the give of an organic body. Right,
it's badass. It's a better product than the Elon Cybertruck. That's for sure. Looks better to me.
That's for damn sure, as we will see.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, in America, in 48 states, totally unregulated. You can get one. You can put that on the Christmas list.
Surprised.
Great summertime product. Yeah.
Knowing New
should be
York
a fun
State,
July 4th this year.
I mean, honestly, for that, it's really not that much. If you have a spare 10 grand laying around,
that's the thing.
It's not that much.
It's not prohibitively expensive to the point where no one can afford it. It's an upscale item.
And I'm sure you can buy it on payments too.
Oh yeah. Like an exercise bike. You pay $40 a month until you pay it off. Yeah, exactly. You don't got to lay out cash for it. Exactly. Payment plan, beautiful. Add that to your monthly payments. Americans are feeling the crunch this summer as inflation continues and their budgets are being eroded by their monthly robo-dog payments at 8% interest. Yes.
I mean, the more we talk about it, the better an idea it seems.
Oh, yeah. That thing is fucking
you
crazy.
walk around Harlem with that shit. Fuck those pit bull motherfuckers. Oh, you got a pit bull, huh?
Yeah. I love how in California they are regulated. You can have them shoot 10 feet and not 30. That's the limit there. Yeah. It can shoot 10 feet of flame in California. You can't have a flamethrower that exceeds 10 feet. I'd love to see that law enforced. What are the odds? There's going to be a cop with an eye shot who's going to be able to eyeball. Hey, I think that's a 14-foot flame
15.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very surprised when they said, states are regulated. I was like, that's got to be regulated in New York. They regulate everything.
Well,
but
it's such a
apparently not. When I had
a niche
backyard,
product, they probably haven't bothered to do it yet.
Yes, I would think people had the scooters at first, and then they basically banned them out of existence. Like, it's so few places you can use it, which fair enough. Like, if there's any place where that is a hazard to use that on a sidewalk, it is New York City. It's just too fucking crowded for
Oh,
those.
yeah, obviously.
But when they first introduced it, you did have people going around the sidewalks in New York with those scooters.
Yeah.
I looked into, when I had a backyard, I was like, man, I want to raise some chickens, man. That would be kind of cool. And you can actually have chickens. You just can't have roosters.
Interesting. That's a weird one. 725.
Well, no, I mean, obvious,
Oh, because of the noise.
Wake everybody up.
That's
but
right. Chickens don't make that much noise. Roosters do.
No. When I first moved into Harlem, when it was more lawless, there was a rooster in the neighboring yard.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
You used to fucking attack me, that motherfucker. I had to go after him with a shovel.
It's like good country living in Harlem, chasing a rooster with a shovel through your neighbor's yard. Where do you live? Harlem.
Yeah. It's like, I live in the Green Acres section of Harlem.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. 725 in the Rumble chat.
Woo!
Thanks everybody for being here. 1235 between YouTube and Twitter. 725 over on Rumble. Pleasure to see you all this morning. All right, so we needed to butter you up with that because we get to the bad news. But before we do that, let's take some super chats. Here we go. Pat Donahue. On last show, Russ was so re the need to disconnect from gender pronoun obsessed new left that alienate ordinary people. Am suspicious where they appeared from by design, as he alludes to, ?
I believe so. We got into this a little bit when I stuck around for the super chat on Jimmy's show yesterday. Yeah, the people who really run shit, they're not stupid, man. It's always a mistake to think they're stupid. That's just your ego talking. They're not fucking stupid. So when you have such a clearly insane and anti-reality agenda being pushed so strongly from on high, that's by design. I've increasingly come to that conclusion. So what's the design? They don't need us anymore, man. The AI's coming. They want less people. I think I can only speculate. I think from their point of view, it's more humane to try to approach it through social engineering to cut down the population than, the other way.
I mean, I think the problem with that is that you have countries like India and China, which have a combined, 2.5 billion people now. Like, in the grand scheme of things, we are, there aren't enough of us to make a dent in that way. Although, I will say as a caveat to that, part of what you see in the reshaping of the world order between like BRICS and the G7, a lot of it has to do with social views. Part of the reason why Russia was never admitted into the international community, and I'm not just talking recently, I'm talking going back thousands of years, they were always more traditional than they were modern, right? They remained Orthodox when much of Europe went Catholic, right? Yep. And so they were never with the new thing, right? They never supported the current thing, as the shirt would say.
Right.
Neither does China, neither does India, right? And so it makes sense why there's this sort of tension, right? So yeah, I think that's
I think they're concerned with their bowl of porridge, which is the West.
Right. Yeah, and that's why there's that fracturing, I think. Part of why, not all of it, obviously. We have to issue a correction here. This is not a super chat, but we don't believe in misinformation here. Russ hosted Jimmy Dore show last night for 4.5 hours, not 3.5.
You're spreading dangerous misinformation.
Yes, that's dangerous misinformation. I know they allow that over on Rumble, which is where you are, but we're on YouTube, so we have to, we're on YouTube and Rumble, so we have to catch that and fix that. It was a 4.5 hour live stream of the Jimmy Dore show last night. That was an
hardcore, man. Semper Fi, gung ho.
That's right. Eric Housseau, today's my 60th birthday. My birthday wish is for a free Palestine. Well, that's noble of you, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
To Eric Housseau. We should have a birthday sound drop so that when people tell us.
We should. It's never come up.
It's never come up. We have to have a sound drop, and thank you for your support. What the world needs now is love, says Cool Blue. Thanks for the $10. Was co-written by Burt Bacharach and recorded by Jackie DeShannon. She beat him for the 1981 Song of the Year Grammy-writing Betty Davis Eyes for Kim Carnes. Interesting.
Oh.
Fun fact. Thank you, Cool Blue.
Interesting.
I'm buying stock in the Fire Dog Company. I'm rich. There you go. Beautiful. Goodbye. Not to be construed as financial advice, but goodbye. The judge is here. Thanks, Judge. Appreciate that. Roy the Goy says, Keaton, I have some insider information. The rapture is slated for January 1st, 2025. You still have time to purchase some fireproof Nomex stationwear before you're cast into the fiery pits. Thank you for that inside information from the Goy himself.
The God of the Bible that way.
Came from the Goy, so that's a reputable source.
You can fool the God of the Amico station that way, but not the God of the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Nocturnal Human, let's find a Due Dissidence Flame Dog, bring it to the show. Yeah, that would be. I'm sure the theater owners will love that. Theater owners will love that. What's this?
Yeah, what's that guy's name? What's that guy's name?
Well, there's Freddie is the main guy, and then his brother works with him. Yeah, I forget his brother's name. I think Ernie or Eddie. Or
seems like a laid back guy.
Laid back guy. Yeah, we're doing a Cirque du Soleil workshop, so we need this. Yeah.
Don't worry, we're not going to use real flame.
Listen, we gave you the $200 security deposit, so worst case scenario, there you go.
You can rebuild the theater with that.
You can keep it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Don't worry. Okay, let's go into some of the more dystopian news. As we know, folks, funding for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is signed, sealed, and delivered. Funding for Ukraine is already out the door. Biden announced yesterday he would get it out within hours, not even waiting for the check to go through. Figures, fuck it. We'll do it. We'll send it, and the money will hit when it hits. Do it live. Exactly. But Mitch McConnell, very happy for the first time in a while. It's been a rough go for Mitch McConnell, who, ironically, if you remember, the liberals used to call Moscow Mitch, right? That was his nickname during, the first Trump term. Moscow Mitch, Moscow Mitch, Moscow Mitch. Meanwhile, nobody in the Republican Party has been a more vocal supporter for Ukraine funding than Mitch McConnell. Mm-hmm. And, dealing with the rebellion and the Freedom Caucus.
They just throw out the propaganda slop for the pigs who consume it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it makes sense. Right. Whatever. Who cares? Right. But McConnell, between, having to deal with the, Insurgent Freedom Caucus, which was not as much his problem as Johnson since they're in the House, but still holding up the bill so they didn't make it to the Senate. And obviously, he had a big falling out with Donald Trump over the 2020 outcome. It's been a rough go for him. So he is finally feeling pretty good to get this World War III funding out the door. And he was asked, what took so long? What took so long? Why couldn't the Republicans unite behind Ukraine? And let's see who he pins the blame on.
Ardent backers of Ukraine in the Senate here, but what took so long to get some of these other 8 Republicans persuaded to your position here? Was it the overall nature of this bill and what was lost in that time period for Ukraine?
Well, that's a good question. You already know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it. We all felt that the border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it. So we ended up doing the supplemental that was originally proposed, which dealt with not all problems. It didn't solve the border problem, but certainly addressed the growing threats at the moment.
Yeah, so, maybe glory hole of the Senate, Mitch McConnell. I don't know, because he's he's not as good looking as Mike Johnson. You know,
No.
you'd have to go with Mike Johnson over him. But it's a different chamber, so sometimes you got to make do with what you have available, right?
I would not kick Mike Johnson out of bed for covenant marriage magic underwear. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, really, I mean, before we even get to the Tucker thing, he's not even saying Donald Trump's name. He's saying our nominee for president and the former president. Clearly, a lot of animosity there. The second thing is he really validates in this statement the Democratic talking point that you needed to pass a law to enforce the southern border. Like that right. his the hardliners in his caucus correctly say, whether you agree with what they want to do with the border or not, that's a different argument. But they correctly say you have enough laws already on the books to the point where, as an executive, you could enforce those laws and restore order there. But no, he says, well, we needed a law to be passed. And because Donald Trump didn't want us to pass it because he wanted to run on the issue, that's why we weren't able to get that done. That's why we had to split it up and get the funding to Ukraine, which obviously was more important because you gave up that major bargaining chip that you had, which is border enforcement, to get this through anyway. So now they have basically Democrat pushovers at the House level, at the Senate level. The Republicans are run by Democrats now. And this is why I said you're seeing the deep state make its move. Tucker Carlson, the aforementioned Tucker Carlson, said this was going to happen. Like that video, we have to play that video again. I have to find that again because I think that's worth revisiting 8 or 9 months later, whatever it was. He made a speech last year saying, don't be surprised in 2024 if your choices are not Trump or Joe Biden. Expect the unexpected. You're seeing in real time now, if you're paying attention, the permanent state coalesce against the MAGA movement. What's happening? You got Trump sitting in court. He's off the campaign trail. No one's heard from him in a couple weeks. They're not going to hear from him for another month. You got Biden closing in the polls, not because Biden's doing anything, because Trump can't campaign. He can't run. He can't fundraise. He can't do rallies. He can't do shit. He's stuck, napping in a courtroom for the next month. And you have Mitch McConnell going out here, trashing him, praising essentially Joe Biden. I mean, that's what they did. They just totally pushed over. Trashing Tucker Carlson, the most influential voice in right of center politics. It looks like they are back in charge. Like it really does. Like they are on some roll this week.
Well, and that outcome was never really in doubt. If you actually understand how much entrenched power those interests have, they were caught off guard by MAGA. They were caught off guard even by Bernie. It's just that the Democratic Party has superdelegates, and they have the media in a way that the Republican Party doesn't. It's not that there's no right-wing media, but the quote-unquote mainstream media is all working for the Democratic Party, which made it a little easier for them to whack Sanders. And also because of who their voting base is. But yes, we do not have a democracy. We have not for a very long time, and it's all connected. I mean, all of this goes back to the Powell memo in the 70s. A former Supreme Court justice wrote a memo talking about how things had gotten out of control. He was basically saying this whole democracy thing has gone too far. And he basically wrote a blueprint for corporations to take over society, to how they could take over the media, how they could influence universities. And we're living in that world. This is why I've mentioned this. If you look at young idealistic people today, they have absolutely no class consciousness at all. At all. Their entire notion of how to fight to make society better is all identity. Why? That's very weird. I didn't like the movie, but The Irishman showed some recreations of Teamsters meetings. And they sound like fucking Karl Marx back then, these guys. And it's jarring because now they've been so Fox News indoctrinated, the kinds of union members, white working class union members that they're representing there, that it's funny hearing a guy who reads that way, who signals that way. Yeah, what we need to do is we need to get these rich fat cats out of the way, and we need more money to the workers. You're not used to hearing that from people like that anymore, but that would have been de rigueur back then. Right. And young people fighting to change society. They always would have had an economic and class perspective, and they don't. They won. We're living in the world that the Powell memo described and wanted to create. So yeah, their power is so entrenched on every level now. Yeah, the MAGA thing caught them by surprise. They never thought Trump was going to win. They never thought it would go that far. They thought Hillary would be in, which they would have been very happy with. They would have been perfectly happy with the Hillary Clinton presidency. Now they had time to regroup and figure out how to crush this thing, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Seems like it. Because now you have Mitch McConnell, who is, he's on his way out the door soon. Let's face it, he's getting old. And, he seems much more motivated to get this Ukraine funding out the door than he does to win any kind of election. Joe Biden seemed the same way. But now, once again, they got Trump tied up in court. He's off the campaign trail. And we're going to get into in our next segment a little bit more of what they're doing to make sure that this race stays tight so that Joe Biden has a chance to win it. We'll go to a super chat first here. Protested with the Freedom Convoy going to City Hall this Sunday to protest the Gaza genocide. Good for you, RB. Funny, the folks I will rally with this Sunday were smearing me as a racist deplorable just a year ago. Well,
this whole thing is making strange bedfellows. I'll give you that.
Strange bedfellows. That's right. Strange bedfellows, RB. Just make sure you wear a face covering so that you don't get doxxed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
A Bard in a Bar, show idea. No, seriously, Jesus was a commie Jew by Tucker and Janet. Who's Janet? You mean Jose? Was that a typo?
Yeah, who's Janet? Do we know Janet?
Maybe it was Jose. We don't have a Janet on the dais, as they say. But thank you for that. Eric Rousseau, maybe I should have birthday wished for a flame-throwing robot disability support dog for the apocalypse. Yeah, somebody had a good tweet. They're like, I'm going to claim this as an emotional support animal. Something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a really funny, epic troll.
Yeah, absolutely.
To take that into the legal system and claim that your dog identifies as organic.
Yes, and he's an emotional support dog. Derek P., you can adopt my robot dog. He's got papers, and he's house trained. He has papers. He's a show dog, dude. He has papers. Fucking dog has fucking papers.
Jimmy and Steph's new dog is very shy. This dog has met me like multiple times, and it's still very scared of me.
Interesting.
When they first got it, and the dog didn't know what was going on.
Right.
It would hang out with me, but now it has a concept of who its owners are. And now it's very shy with me.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's weird. Some animals take a while to warm up to you. It's weird. All right, let's go on to segment number 3. This is related to our previous one. This broke last night. Arizona grand jury indicts Donald Trump allies 11 fake electors. An Arizona grand jury has indicted former Donald Trump chief of staff Mark Meadows and lawyer Rudy Giuliani, along with 16 others. This was an AP article republished by the Huffington Post. An Arizona grand jury has indicted former President Donald Trump's chief of staff Mark Meadows, lawyer Rudy Giuliani, and 16 others for their efforts to use so-called fake electors to try to overturn Trump's loss to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. The indictment released Wednesday named 11 Republicans who submitted a document to Congress falsely declaring that Trump won Arizona in 2020, including the former state party chair, a 2022 U.S. Senate candidate, and 2 sitting state lawmakers. They're charged with 9 counts each of conspiracy, fraud, and forgery. The identities of 7 other defendants, including Giuliani and Meadows, were not immediately released because they had not yet been served with the charges. Trump who is described in the indictment as an unindicted co-conspirator, has argued that he can't be prosecuted for acts he committed while serving as president. The U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday will hear arguments on his bid to avoid federal prosecution over his efforts to reverse his loss. So it's possible he might be charged here, is what that sounds like, right? Because he's got this case pending before the Supreme Court. So it sounds like if they rule against him, which maybe they will, maybe they won't, there could be a charge against Trump here too, potentially. That's what it sounds like to me. Again, I'm no lawyer. I'm just a simple podcaster. I'm just a simple country podcaster. Yeah. So don't take my word for it, but that's what it sounds like to me. With the indictments, Arizona becomes the fourth state where allies of the former president have been charged with using false or unproven claims about voter fraud related to the election. Heading into a likely November rematch with Biden, Trump continues to spread lies about the last election that are echoed by many of his supporters. I will not allow American democracy to be undermined, Democratic State Attorney General Chris Mays said in a video released by her office. It's too important. So here she is, Chris Mays. We're going to play her statement. And this is really disappointing to see from Chris Mays because we just made friends with Chris Mays. We just covered her in the last shows. You know, she is leading the charge to try and press charges against the Real Page, which is the AI software that's rigging the housing market there. So she was doing a great job. We were fans, and now she goes ahead and she turns on our favorite president. You know, she turns on our dear leader, which is not good. Believe me, not good. It's very unfair. But let's hear her out.
We didn't make a single sexist or misogynistic joke about her. But
No.
that's about to change.
That's about to change, right? Why don't you stick to going after the real criminals, landlords, right?
Yes.
And leave our favorite president, who oddly enough was a landlord himself at a time, but we won't pay attention to that at the moment because we're in the tank for Trump, right? So let's hear her out.
I'm Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. Let me start by thanking everyone for your patience as we conducted a thorough and professional investigation over the past 13 months into the fake elector scheme in our state. I understand for some of you today didn't come fast enough, and I know I'll be criticized by others for conducting this investigation at all. But as I have stated before and will say here again today, I will not allow American democracy to be undermined. It's too important. The investigators and attorneys assigned to this case took the necessary time to thoroughly piece together the details of the events that began nearly 4 years ago. They followed the facts where they led, and I'm very proud of the work they've done to date. We're here because justice demands an answer to the efforts that the defendants and other unindicted co-conspirators allegedly took to undermine the will of Arizona's voters during the 2020 presidential election. Arizona's election was free and fair. The people of Arizona elected President Biden. Unwilling to accept this fact, the defendants charged by the state grand jury allegedly schemed to prevent the lawful transfer of the presidency. Whatever their reasoning was, the plot to violate the law must be answered for, and I was elected to uphold the law of this state. The scheme, had it succeeded, would have deprived Arizona's voters of their right to have their votes counted for their chosen president. It effectively would have made their right to vote meaningless.
Well, there you have it.
You know, democracy, if you feel democracy is that important, I think somebody needs to inform her that you have two political parties that are completely unaccountable to the public, one of which actually went into court and argued its own lack of accountability to the public. And they, through their power and influence, have made it virtually impossible for anyone to challenge their candidates, which are chosen in a very undemocratic way that they are not in any way accountable to the voters for that selection. So I think you're a little late, ma'am, to the saving democracy boat. The idea that the outcome of that process is in any way democratic is in and of itself a joke.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, we'll look more into this case in the coming days and perhaps do some follow-up segments on it. Like I said, this broke late last night. But as you can see, this is another prosecution of Trump's team. And like I said, according to that article, it sounded like the door is open to another indictment against Trump himself if the Supreme Court case doesn't go his way. This is another maneuver. I mean, you're seeing the effect of this lawfare. The Daily Beast ran an article last week, which if there weren't a million things going on last week, we would have gotten to. And we might still get to it because it's kind of evergreen. But the thesis of the article, snottily written as it was, because it's the Daily Beast, so they're writing this in like an encouraging tone. They're saying that Trump's legal problems are starting to hurt him in the race because he can't fundraise, he can't rally, he's out of the public eye. The trial itself isn't televised, so he's not even getting any face time with the American people. He's just disappeared. He's stuck in a courtroom. And now, even if he doesn't end up indicted as a result of this, this is still a massive propaganda campaign that gets to run on in the state of Arizona, a critical swing state. He's got charges against him in Georgia, another critical swing state, where a lot of these anti-Trump narratives are going to be in the news because of these cases. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona are the big three. You could probably add Michigan to that list now because of the Arab and Muslim leaders. Now, the advantage Trump has, Trump only needs to win 2 of those 4. If you go Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Trump needs 2 of those, Biden needs 3 of those. So Trump is still the favorite in a fair fight. But as you can see from these last 2 segments, it's not a fair fight. It's not going to be a fair fight. Like, they're going to keep coming and coming and coming. And now it gets to a point where when Biden starts to rise in the polls, and he's inching up in the polls, he's not surging because he's not doing anything to earn support, but you're choking the other candidate out of the race.
Exactly.
And when you have now just a little over 6 months left, if Trump is stuck in a courtroom for another month, you're talking about Trump losing 20% of the time that Biden has, right? You get another one of these trials going. You get, more court cases going. He could have, it's not inconceivable to think that Trump is going to have 30% the campaign time that Biden has. So Biden gets to run almost double the campaign that Trump gets to run, right? That makes a difference because that affects your fundraising. It affects, your time on the ground, rallying, which is where you get, volunteers signed up, right? These things add up, and in a close race, and Biden was always, Trump had been favored to win for a while, but it was never going to be a landslide. It was always going to be a fairly tight race. In a close race, these things make a big difference. Things make a big difference. When you sideline a candidate and you have the closest swing states in the country going after, the candidate and his allies to the point where it's going to be in the news on a constant basis on local media in, Arizona and Georgia, which are these 2 crucial swing states. Yeah, man, they could be primed to knock him out to the point where what seemed inconceivable 3 months ago to me, which is, can Biden actually squeak this out? It's not inconceivable at this point. Now, Russell has maintained from day one that the giant asterisk next to this whole 2024 issue is, are they going to simply make it impossible for him to win? And so Russell's probably not as taken aback by this as I am. But yeah, it seems like maybe it's not time for a full victory lap, but it's certainly looking like you were on to something. Because if this keeps up at this rate, you're only going to see half of a Trump campaign. You're not going to be able to see a full campaign.
This is, it's funny because you have a lot of, Trump supporters, whenever I have said this, have absolutely said, no way, look at the polls. But if you ask them, hey, so do you think the system is rigged? Absolutely. Okay. Well, which one of these things doesn't go with the other? If the system is that rigged, why on earth did you think they were going to let Donald Trump be the president? And then if you bring that up, they'll say, oh, well, the country will go crazy. You think they care? You think, go ahead, give them an excuse to test out all the military hardware they've given to local police forces over the last several decades. Go ahead, give them a you go ahead. Give them a reason to roll the tanks out. They don't give a fuck. They're going to do what they're going to do. I've said this throughout. If they let Donald Trump be president, I would have to reevaluate my entire belief system about how this country works. As far as I understand this country, there is no way they let that man be president. No way. They by hook or by crook or by extraordinary means, shall we say, extraordinary rendition to the angels. We'll we'll call it that. They will not let that guy be president. That has been my opinion throughout. And yeah, they'd rather deal with it this way because of what they're saying. Oh, the country will explode. It's easier for them to do it this way. Just a slow lawfare grind than, an accident.
Right, exactly. Just kind of like smother the campaign to the point where it is overcome by, a very weak incumbent that can actually like do the blocking and tackling of running a presidential campaign. There are still a lot of Democratic partisans. Trump has very high negatives, and it's going to be close. It is going to be a tight one. It's going to come down. And the other big question mark, and is do these abandoned Biden voters really stick it out, right? Because there's going to be a lot of propaganda and a lot of, oh, come on, we know you're upset, but you got to fall in line. Like, some of these people I take at their word. You talk about Dearborn, Michigan, you're talking about people who have lost family members in Gaza. Like, I trust them to hold the line. But everybody else beyond that, at the end of the day, man, you're talking about fucking Democrats. Like, these are the weakest, most spineless people in America.
True.
There's nothing a TV ad can't convince them of at the last minute. And so that's another question mark going in.
Sure. I think, on your side of the ledger, the idea that they swap out Biden, I could definitely see that happening too. Like, I could definitely see by the time you get to November, it's not even Trump and Biden.
Yeah. That was what Tucker said. He said it's not going to be Trump or Biden. And it seems like there are certain wheels in motion. Like, it really does. Like, there's a very eerie feeling in the air this week with this war funding and the TikTok ban. And all of a sudden, these Democrats and Republicans are talking nice again. Like, they're being nice to each other again over war, over something no one wants. Like, that's how you know you're in an authoritarian system. Like, the Democrats and Republicans are talking each other up this week, not because they did something that everybody wants. Like, it's one thing if you come together to pass something that has broad bipartisan support, like, I don't know, paid family leave, right? Or universal pre-K. No, you come together to send $60 billion to an unwinnable war that's getting people killed left and right. And this is an example. Ro Khanna, this is the example of the system working. Yeah.
Right.
Scary shit. Really scary shit. Let's go to let's shout out our supporters here. Sorry, I forgot to bring that up. I will do that right now. Bear with me, folks. Thank you. Beautiful. All right, folks, we did a little patron pitch yesterday over on Rumble. You could sign up to support our show by becoming a member at patreon.com/do-dissidents. You get all these perks. You get your name up in lights on the program. You also get call-in access to our post-show Sunday Q&As. And you get access to 2 patron-exclusive streams per month. The scheduling on these is wonky this month because Russell got called back to LA again. But we have decided that our second Patreon stream of April is going to be this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. So 1 o'clock Eastern. So there's a double header for paid members this Sunday, just like there was a double header last Sunday. Double header this Sunday, 1 p.m. matinee patron exclusive stream, and then a 7 p.m. Evening show, which is the regular show where you'll have call-in access again. So actually, patrons and paid Substackers will have double the call-in access this week. You'll get to call us in the daytime and call us again for a little nightcap. So those are the perks of becoming a member. You can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com. And if you're over on Rumble, pardon me, you can join our locals by hitting that join button right underneath the screen. There's 956 of you guys over on Rumble this morning. That's amazing. Hit that like button, hit that follow button. And you can join to support our project for as little as $5 a month. Over on Locals, you get all those perks. Perks are the same across all those platforms. Our members are indeed the backbone of the show, and we thank you very much for your support. And once again, live show tickets are on sale. 3 left for the evening. Who wants them? 3 tickets left. That's right, 3. And 10, I believe 9 or 10. I forget how many.
Be the first kid on your block.
There we go. 10 left for the 2 p.m. show. Those are the links. DoDissidents.com/day show for the 2 p.m. night show. For the 7 p.m., those are filling up. Those will be sold out any day now, so don't miss out. Julia M.R., Naomi Wolf on X saying the pro-peace protests are controlled by bad actors. I push back. There may be infiltration, not uncommon, but most are sincere. Well, yeah, obviously. Now, somebody said Naomi Klein is a grifter. So Naomi Klein and Naomi Wolf are 2 different people, but you guys aren't fusing them in your mind, right? The 2 of you guys. I know Naomi Klein was at the Jewish Voice for Peace, did a Seder, a Free Palestine Seder the other night. Not the biggest fan of hers, so I don't know enough about her to render a judgment. But, yeah, Naomi Wolf saying the peace protests are controlled by bad actors. So, you know the woman who was holding the Al-Qassam targets thing? Mm-hmm. According to the People's Forum, which, you know, they're a fairly reputable organization. They've been around a long time. I don't think they would tweet something out if it weren't at least true to the best of their knowledge, meaning they've probably vetted these ideas. According to them, that woman was there by herself. Her husband did the filming, and she was asked not to hold that sign by the protesters, and she held it up anyway.
I'm sure.
Now, if she held it up anyway, and her husband filmed it, I mean, that tells you kind of what, and her face was covered. Right. She had a keffiyeh covering her face, not a COVID mask, which is interesting because we saw in the casting call for infiltrators, wear a keffiyeh over your face. So you look even more like a Palestinian, right?
Right.
So yeah, also, maybe we should play this on Jimmy tomorrow. I think the Jimmy audience will get a kick out of this. Max and Aaron on the Gray Zone did a pretty hilarious video where they're looking at some of the agitators, and they had their suspicions about this one guy screaming out things that he seemed like an infiltrator. So no, I think you're absolutely right. Look, we know they're going to try to embarrass the movement now, and that's a very easy way to do it. And so yeah, but it's not surprising for me to know that the woman holding that sign was asked not to. And then the question is, well, who filmed her? Whoever took a picture was trying to embarrass the movement.
Exactly. That if you've ever been to any of these protests, everyone is so careful not to give the media anything like that. Like nobody who's aware enough to even make a sign is going to make that sign.
Right.
As soon as you see something like that, it's deeply suspicious.
Yep, exactly. Brock Sampson, 71, thank you. You guys are doing a great job at Jimmy Dore Show. Kurt and you guys have great chemistry together. Thank you.
Thank you. He was killing me yesterday. What was the...
Well, it was funny, yeah.
I can't repeat some of it. I don't want the stream to get...
Yeah, some of it was on the Rumble side, and that's where it'll probably stay, unless the editors over there want to take a chance. But yeah, he was killing. He was on fire yesterday, as they say. He had his fastball yesterday, for sure. Dan Richman, Hebe from the Hebe and Goy Show, Motley Jew. Conspiracy theory, Blob wants Trump to win, plans to tank economy in 25, get people begging for neolib in 28. If they wanted to win, they'd swap Biden and would have put bigger GOP primary fights. I don't know, man.
They still might swap Biden.
They still might.
And I think you underestimate the pettiness of the ruling class. Like some people are saying, Trump is an insider. Yeah, I mean, he's an insider compared to us.
Right.
But he's not an insider compared to them.
Right.
He's vulgar. He's in the family, but he's the embarrassing relative that you don't like.
Right. Exactly. John Locke, Janet, Mr. Vega, if you're nasty. Yes, thank you, Janet, John Locke. Thanks for that nice donation as well. D.C., Arizona took 5 days to count ballots. Why no investigation? AZ even took the second day off for ballot count. Well, D.C., your friend, Craig Pasta-Jardula, our friend as well, was going to be on the show on Wednesday, but he had a commitment that came up last minute. And he's been tweeting about these charges, and I would like to maybe talk to him. We're going to have him on again soon, maybe even this Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday. So maybe we'll talk about this case more with him. DD, thank you for the $5 MT unit. Appreciate that. Nina Ken smells bullshit. Okay, nice. It's all fake to keep us voting in two-party system. Thank you, Nina. Appreciate that. Okay, all right. We did a Cybertruck story on the Jimmy Dore show last night, which was a lot of fun. And we have a Cybertruck adjacent story, if you will, to bring you with some more Cybertruck footage because why not? It's just so funny. So
why not? Yes, we had the videos laying around anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been on the Tesla beat for a while. Full disclosure, I am a Ford investor. Now, some people have said, "Oh, well, so that's why you're covering this." No, I'm a Ford investor because of my theory of the case. It's not the other way around. I'm not presenting
we're going to swing the market
theory
with our little YouTube
Well,
show
that's
here.
another thing. I have fucking impact on any of this. No,
like Mitch McConnell's going to come up. It was Russell Dobular that turned people against Tesla.
Elon's going to shut down our X account.
Yeah. It was Russell Dobular. It's because of he has a tremendous following and influence, and he just did not stop criticizing Tesla until Ford stock reached $300 a share.
Wall Street bets they only listen to Russell Dobular over there.
Yeah.
What he says goes. He is the E.F. Hutton of the new generation of Robinhood retail investors.
Yeah, listen, on a serious note, like some of you guys got to get a little bit of a grip on the influence of these shows, and on a serious note, like this is why we say like boots on the ground activism, like what we did with Jose on Saturday is important because it's easy when you watch this stuff all the time, and we love that you watch it as much as you do. That's what allows us to do it, and it's a great honor to be able to do this. But it also is important to get out in the world a little bit so that you don't think that we have this inflated importance.
Right.
Like the idea that Russell's doing this to drive up Ford stock, that's a little mashugana.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very, very well put.
Yeah.
But full disclosure, because, we have integrity. I just want to say that. But the reason is my theory of the case has long been that Tesla is going to collapse under the weight of its own madness and the arrogance of its CEO, and that Ford has a market and brand loyalty particularly in the interior of the country that Tesla not only does not have, but quite the opposite, because so many of the people, as you start to expand into trucks, so many of the people who like to buy trucks, they're very loyal to the Ford brand, and they're openly hostile to Tesla because it got linked early on to libs. But okay, so one of my theories was that Tesla was going to start to tank because Elon made himself toxic to his customer base, which is Dems, which is Democrats. What liberal Democrat wants to be seen in a Tesla now? That's like being seen in a Trump, right? It might as well be called Trump Motors.
Right.
So now there have been a few articles coming out about this because a study was just dropped showing that did indeed happen. This is Wall Street Journal. Elon Musk lost Democrats on Tesla when he needed them most. And what they mean by needed them most is the whole EV market is starting to roll over. The proportion of Democrats buying Tesla vehicles fell by more than 60%, according to car buyers surveyed in October and November by researcher Strategic Vision. Tesla has since made up ground with blue buyers, the research shows, but the dramatic drop highlights the risk hanging over Tesla with an increasingly political chief executive at a time when electric car makers were already struggling to appeal to many Republican buyers. This is a point that I've been making, and some people have said, Republicans buy Teslas. Yeah, sure, not in the same numbers. Younger Republicans, I would imagine, and even that, not in the same numbers. The fall contraction coincided with Musk's being increasingly vocal about illegal immigration, amplifying a tweet promoting anti-Semitic vitriol, and publicly attacking Disney over his contention that the entertainment company had become too woke. Musk has called the troublesome tweet foolish, and the Mouse House CEO has defended its positions while saying it needs to stay focused on entertainment, even as they gender swap the Silver Surfer. Let me know how that goes. In many ways, Musk was sounding a lot like Donald Trump, embracing billionaire populism and less like the green hero he was once celebrated as. Among 2022 model year buyers, Democrats made up 40% of Tesla customers and 39% in 2023, according to Strategic Vision surveys. Things began to change in the 2024 model year survey, which began in October. The makeup of Democrats fell to 15%, while Republicans jumped to 32% and independents swelled to 44%. Those results show Tesla was losing sales among Democrats, Alexander Edwards, president of Strategic Vision, said of the fall findings. In California, a solid blue state, registrations of new Tesla vehicles fell almost 10% in the fourth quarter. That was a stunning reversal from the third quarter, when registrations rose 43%, and perhaps a sign of things to come nationally. See, this is something else I was saying, because you didn't see this turn up immediately. People pre-ordered these cars years in advance. It was going to take time for the impact of Democrats not wanting to buy Teslas to start to show up in the numbers. Tesla doesn't release U.S.-specific sales results, but Motor Intelligence estimates Tesla's U.S. sales growth turned negative this year. Model 3 sedan sales fell 44% in the period that ended in March compared with a year ago, according to the research firm. Model Y sport utility vehicles rose just 1.4%. EV ownership has long been politically divisive. Early electric cars, with dramatically higher prices than comparable gas-powered ones, were cast by critics as playthings for the rich and coastal elites. For every 5 Democrats owning an EV, there have been 2 Republicans. Musk has said he is against Biden, but has stopped short of saying he will back Trump. Quote, there is either a red wave this November or America is doomed, Musk tweeted in March.
That's not technically an endorsement, but that's pretty close.
That's pretty close. Yeah. And that is not the way to get MSNBC deranged libs to buy your fucking car.
No, not the best sales pitch for electric vehicles.
No. As for how his comments might affect his businesses, Musk has essentially shrugged off the suggestion that they could affect things. With respect to Tesla, we make the best cars. Whether you hate me, like me, or indifferent, do you want the best car or do you not want the best car? All right, so this is where we're going to have a little fun. So check it out. Those clips just dropped on Rumble. They'll probably drop on YouTube later. We did a whole breakdown that was a lot of fun of the trials and travails of the Cybertruck. So it's just one of the videos we put together. So this best car assertion of Elon's may not be all it's cracked up to be, at least where his latest product, the Cybertruck, is concerned. Now, this was advertised as a truck that was going to be able to go anywhere. You know, it was this post-apocalypse vehicle. You could take off-road. You could do anything with it. So let's see how it actually performed in the wild.
I'll call Elon. He'll get you out.
This is a Cybertruck happened to be rescued by a Ford F-150, by the way.
It is March 4th, and some dumbass decided to take his Tesla onto the sand at Marina State Beach.
Being laughed at by the very girls you would hope to impress.
You had hoped
Priceless.
you would get in the back of one of those. Yeah. Oh, it's so obnoxious.
All right, so this is like an area that people go to like test out their trucks and have fun.
So that's the
see
real
what they
man
can
truck.
do.
That's the big man truck.
That's the real truck. Here's their Cybertruck. I'm trying to do the same thing.
Let's put rocks underneath this.
You gotta turn driver. Hold on. Hang on, I'm trying to get him off this tree. Get out of there. Get out of there. Turn driver and back up. Slow. Hang on. Stop. Hold on.
Oh.
So ugly and useless. Look at that. No, they advertise these things as having off-road capabilities, right?
Yes, but if you damage the car going off-road, it voids your warranty. That's great for a car that can go anywhere. Truck that can go anywhere.
I don't understand how is it built for off-road? Look how low to the ground it is. Like if you're going to take something off-road, you need something like this. You see how high off the ground the body of the car is? That's because you make it for off-road, because you're going to have bumpy rides and hills and shit. Look at how low to the ground this is. You can't take that off-road.
Yeah, exactly. You look at the whole conformation, and it's just not even made to do that.
Right.
Like this is what everybody's saying in the auto industry. You'd have to redesign this entire car. Like it's not as made, it can't do what it's supposed to do. So so Elon, so this is interesting. So they reported their quarter on Tuesday, and their quarter was terrible. Fucking terrible. As bad as you could have expected. And this is Elon's skill. He's a showman, and he's very good at pumping up his army of retail investors who are, have a cult-like devotion to him. So given that his core business isn't working, he just basically decided to claim that they're not in the business they're in. So Elon Musk insists Tesla isn't a car company as sales falter. Sales fell 9% from a year ago in the most recent quarter, the first drop in 4 years. Operating profit tumbled more than 50% from the same period last year. Guidance, too, was a drag as executives foresee notably lower volume. But the market loved Tesla, reassuring the world that actually cheaper cars are coming. As Jefferies analyst said in a note after the report, quote, first impression for us is CEO Musk appeasing the market by accelerating new product launches. And Musk emphasized over and over again on the earnings call that investors shouldn't view Tesla as an automaker, but rather as a digital platform akin to Uber and Airbnb for an autonomous fleet. During the call, when Vice President of Vehicle Engineering Lars Moravy dodged a question about the specific timeline for a mass market $25,000 vehicle, let me just interject here that Musk in 2019 announced that the Cybertruck was going to be available the following year and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. And it took 4 years for it actually to get released. And here they won't even commit to a timeline. Musk interjected to say that more details will come at Tesla's August 8th robotaxi unveiling. So this is, he claims that they're going to solve autonomous driving to the point that the business is going to explode with its fleet of autonomous driverless taxis. This is the scheme that geniuses threw their money into Tesla the next day over. But he added his patented visionary flourish. The way to think of Tesla is almost entirely in terms of solving autonomy and being able to turn on that autonomy for a gigantic fleet. Musk elaborated later on the call, we should be thought of as an AI robotics company. If you value Tesla as just an auto company, it's just the wrong framework. If you ask the wrong question, then the right answer is impossible. He went on to encourage the autonomous non-believers to get lost. If somebody doesn't believe that Tesla is going to solve autonomy, I think they should not be an investor in the company. And we will, and we are. Okay, so once again, yeah. They're going to solve autonomy. They can't solve how to get a truck up a fucking hill. They're going to solve autonomy. And finally, look, I know this is maybe, untoward to rub it in like this, but Ford just reported its quarter last night. Tops quarter one's earnings expectation, sees full year profit tracking to high end of guidance.
J-O-O.
There you go.
Here comes Ron.
Yeah.
Here comes Ron.
Well, it's interesting because, look, my theory of the case, my theory of all of these types of people, all of these tech bros, the move fast, break things ethos at Facebook, that just tells you everything, right? They're all impulse, they're all ego, they think they're untouchable, they think they're going to change the world. It begs the question, like, did he have the foresight to think, hey, I'm spending $44 billion or whatever it was on an unprofitable company, and the sort of like political blowback of doing that might damage my main brand, which is my cash cow.
Right.
Is that going to hurt me? Now, he's still got the Starlink. He's got all this other things. He has government contracts. So, don't get me wrong. He's not heading for the poorhouse.
He's got Neuralink. He wants to put chips in your brain.
That's right. He's got all these things.
SpaceX.
He has a lot of balls in the air. So, I'm not saying he's going to be in the poorhouse anytime soon. He'll be all right. But I don't know. Do you think he anticipated that kind of blowback? Like the political fallout from buying Twitter might damage him with the very people who are inclined to buy EVs?
I think he's arrogant, and I think he just said what he said there. Well, we have the best cars, so people will buy it anyway.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Where else are they going to go?
Right.
Well, and that's very arrogant because the other car companies have been catching up. Like, don't you pay attention to what's going on in the market? In China, Tesla is running neck and neck now with their indigenous leading electric car company, BYD. They're getting killed in China. That's a whole other dimension to why their sales are plummeting, because the Chinese, they're patriotic people. If you give them a good option that's made in China, they're not going to buy no fucking American car.
Right. Exactly. Barack Sampson, the system can flat out not let Trump run, cannot flat out not let Trump run, because if they don't, you'll have a real rebellion on your hands, and there's more of us than them. Well, this is the argument for doing it the way they are, right? If they just can stifle the campaign to eke out a Biden victory, as inconceivable as that sounds, right? Then that is the easy and, more desirable route for them to take, for sure. That is the path of least resistance, as they say. Please cover EV batteries that are catching fire.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Yeah, we've heard about those. Yeah, we've been hearing about those for a while. Naomi Wolf's husband is ex-deep state.
Oh, is he?
Interesting. Only self-hating Jews hold Ford stock. That's right.
No, hey, man. Absolutely. Like Henry, it's ancient history now, but yeah, Henry Ford should have been tried for treason. He was committing treason during World War II.
Yeah.
Like you could make a strong case. The trucks that rolled into France, Ford's, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Liberal Dems showing how petty they really are. Thank you, Dodger 12. The U.S. is the scene from Talladega Nights where Magic Man asks Ricky Bobby if he can win one. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, go outside, touch grass at a Tim McGraw, see a Tim McGraw concert. Yeah, exactly right. Thank you, Aspen Follett. Anyone who believes Russia's going to invade Europe probably jacks off to Joe Scarborough. Yes, indeed.
Yes. Or Mitch McConnell.
Right, yeah, exactly. People confuse Klein and Wolf so much. Klein wrote a great book on it, Doppelganger. Klein is awesome, no logo, shock doctrine. Yeah, I know Klein wrote the shock doctrine. Is that what Doppelganger is about, or are you joking? Because she just wrote a book called Doppelganger. But yeah, no, I confuse them all the time too. Master Yoda, send Richie Torres back to APAC, support Jose Vega 2024, vote Vega.nyc. Yeah, this is what is this? I think this is day 10 of canvassing. So I'm going to have to call Jose after and see where he's at with his numbers. But yes, indeed. Abiding 71, thanks to the 99-cent super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that, my friend. Dodger 12, my 59 Dodge Power Wagon is a real truck. There you go. A real man with a real truck. Maybe Tesla's being sabotaged, just guessing. Yeah, I mean, I think.
I mean, nobody made Elon get up on a stage, announce that his truck had bulletproof glass, and then shatter it with a rock.
Throw a rock through it, and the fucking window cracks on the stage.
I mean, did somebody make him do that?
Why
did somebody
wouldn't they
make
just
him design a fucking look? I that's what I don't understand about this. You know, if you look at our full Cybertruck segment, you know, people are sharing videos of what they're calling the cyber guillotine. They didn't even put in pinch sensors, and all the edges are fucking sharp. So you put a carrot in there, the trunk will cut the carrot in half. What do you think that's going to do to a finger? Like, the longer these are out there, the more you're going to have people get injured. And I don't even want to think about what's going to happen to the first person who gets hit by a fucking truck with a wedge on the front made of sharpened stainless steel.
Yeah, no, just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I don't understand why. I mean, this would have been unethical, but certainly not beneath Elon to do. Why wouldn't you throw like a fake rock at the window just in case, right? I mean, again, that's unethical to do. But
it's unethical,
man, that was what an embarrassment that was. I mean, that's unbelievable. Might be off topic, but do you think the college protests are the last nail in the coffin for a possible Biden second term? I would say nothing is for sure now.
Yeah. As we have been discussing, man, they run this shit. You're just living here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just never fucking know. Never know. But our next segment does have to do with the campus protests. So, folks, we've been covering the protests at Columbia, NYU, Yale, and elsewhere. Solidarity with Gaza encampments have sprung up at colleges and universities throughout the country. And so American President Benjamin Netanyahu thought that he should chime in and offer his 2 cents on the campus protests. So here's Netanyahu.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty.
Lie.
This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was...
I just want to say, were there a lot of Jews at the anti-Jewish protests in Germany?
Right, exactly.
Do you have groups, Jews for Hitler?
Right.
Did you?
Were they holding the banners up?
Were they holding the banners? Yeah, you know, he goes a little too far sometimes, but he's got panache.
Right, exactly.
Did you have a lot of that?
Right.
Shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently, but there has to be more. More has to be done. It has to be done not only because they attack Israel, that's bad enough. Not only because they want to kill Jews wherever they are, that's bad enough. It's also when you listen
we can't let these statements run without just saying that obviously, not that anybody watching this doesn't know this already, just outright lies. I mean, just
they want to kill
lies.
Jews wherever they are. Does that include the fucking Jews who are at all of these protests?
Yeah. Just absolute lies. Absolute lies. And we have to say this because I don't know if you're going to be able to comment on this video when we put it out there. So we have to say what you might not be able to. Yeah.
As you have probably noticed, YouTube is upping its game this week.
Yeah, exactly.
They say not only death to Israel, death to the Jews, But death
They
to
don't say
America.
death to anybody. They don't say any of this. Again, just incredible lies. And this is why, this is why, you guys are important. It's important to be there if you can, to show support if you can, because we need these kids to keep this up. But we have to, just as we were able to turn the public mind against Israel over the course of the months, between, I would say, November and February, right, that period, we're going to have to show and share footage of these protests. Let's just share the video so that people can see that these are lies, because most of the people who will watch this Netanyahu piece do not get shown the actual footage of the encampments themselves. They take his word for it. You'll have MSNBC, you'll have Fox News, you'll have CNN, you'll have all these print media outlets parrot what he's saying right now. I mean, it's just transparent and out in the open. He is telling the media what to say. He's telling our politicians what to say, right?
Yep.
That's not a conspiracy. That's being done on camera for you. We just saw Morning Joe do an about face 2 weeks ago. They're calling for sanctions against Israel. Now they're bringing an NYU professor, a so-called professor, Scott Galloway, on to excuse genocide on their behalf. So this is a mobilization of permanent state forces that we have not seen in a while. We haven't seen it this coordinated and this fast and this out in the open in a while. And so you have to share footage of peaceful protests. That's why that woman going there trying to troll the Yale protesters and failing, that's why that was so viral. Because she went there to make a point, and she ended up making the exact opposite point, to the point where they actually took down the video 40 million views and 40 million memes later, right? But notice, you're not allowed to comment on that video now on YouTube, right? It's hard to find that video on social media now because the original tweet was taken down.
You can only find like parody versions.
Exactly. You can only find those. So you have a situation here where the truth is obvious, their lies are obvious, and the only way they're going to get away with this is if people don't see the protests themselves. And so you have to share footage of the protests, not doctored in any way, because we can just tell the truth. The protests are peaceful. Nobody's being harassed. Nobody's being threatened. Nobody's being attacked. It's not me saying that. That's the NYPD saying that.
Yes. The NYPD said they have not had one report of a violent attack against a Jewish student. Not one. A single one. A single one. That is pretty funny for a situation where everyone's a vicious anti-Semite and they want to kill all the Jews. They want to kill all the Jews. They didn't even slap one? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, when you got a mob like that, all whipped up in an anti-Semitic frenzy, you'd figure somebody get grabbed on the shoulder or something. Nothing. And if anyone, and surely this isn't the case in our audience, but if anyone has any doubt that the media functions purely as operatives for the deep state, watch that Morning Joe pivot along with the whole press. Somebody wanted to pressure Israel, or the government wanted to pressure Israel not to handle the Rafah invasion the way they were about to. They called up the media and said, hey, go after Israel, free reign. Then you get Joe Scarborough screaming, Netanyahu was giving money to Hamas. And okay. That story broke in December. That was in the New York Times in mid-December. Why now? Why now? They could have covered that story months ago because somebody gave them permission. I think that they worked out a deal now based on reporting that's out there and rumors that are out there. They worked out a deal that in exchange for Israel not starting World War III with Iran, they could have a free hand in Rafah. And then the call went out, we got to get ready because the images coming out of Rafah are going to make the killing fields look like Disneyland. So you got to really, really put it into the culture that any disagreement with Israel's actions is being driven by virulent Nazi, anti-Semite communists. And that's it. They just turned around and went with a completely different narrative, like what they were saying last week about sanctions and Leon Panetta. Leon Panetta, no deeper deep state ghoul than Leon Panetta going on TV talking about how Israel shoots first and asks questions later and they're not careful about civilian life. All the full court press, and now like it never happened.
Exactly. I'm seeing if I still have that article. I don't think so. I think I got rid of it because it was on the last show. So I don't have it, unfortunately, because I would have shared it as a screen share. But what Russell is referring to, we covered this on Tuesday's episode. The Times of Israel reported that the United States said in exchange for a contained back and forth with Iran that does not blossom into World War III, we will soften our red line stance on a Rafah invasion. Now, the United States denies having made that deal, so we cannot confirm that deal has been made. But your theory seems sound to me because, first of all, that story didn't just come out of nowhere. Times of Israel is a fairly reputable newspaper, as Israeli newspapers go. Low bar, but they're one of the papers of record there, right? It's not like the National Enquirer of Israel, right?
Yeah,
They ran with it. So there was enough meat on the bones there for them to run with it. And it makes sense. It makes sense because they're going to have to, like, they're more pro-Israel now than they've ever been. And 2 weeks ago, they were calling for sanctions on Morning Joe. So what happened? Something clearly happened where now we're back to litigating campus protests again. Netanyahu's out here saying these just outright lies about these kids again. And it seems like, I said this on yesterday's show with Nick, like it's like we're in a time warp. Like time has folded in on itself. We're here October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and then we hit this, and now here we are back in November, right? Like, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Like, all of a sudden, boom, so quick it happened. At the same time, the World War III bill passes and the TikTok ban passes. It's like, talk about dropping the hammer. Like, that is what this feels like. And look, can we confirm? We can't report as fact that that's what happened. We're just speculating, but I think it's reasonable based on reporting from established outlets that is a timeline, because I can't think of another timeline. I can't think of another reason. I mean, it seems so bizarre, but Netanyahu's not finished. Let's go back.
And this tells us that there's an anti-Semitic surge here that has terrible consequences. We see this exponential rise of anti-Semitism throughout America and throughout Western societies as Israel tries to defend itself against genocidal terrorists who hide behind civilians. Yet it is Israel that is falsely accused of genocide. Israel that is falsely accused of starvation.
Again, tell me we have not gone through a wormhole and we're back in November. This is exactly what we were hearing 6 months ago. And we had made so much progress.
Falsely accused of starvation.
Yeah, exactly. And we had moved past it to the point where their narrative was in shambles, and now we're back here again?
Sundry war crimes. It's all one big libel. But that's not new. We've seen in history that anti-Semitic attacks were always preceded by vilification and slander. Lies that were cast against the Jewish people that are unbelievable, yet people believed them. And what is important now is for all of us who are interested and cherish our values and our civilization, to stand up together and to say enough is enough. We have to stop anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. It always precedes larger conflagrations that engulf the entire world. So I ask all of you, Jews and non-Jews alike, who are concerned with our common future and our common values, to do one thing: stand up, speak up, be counted. Stop anti-Semitism now.
Well, the woman
that's it. You know, I mean, they're dropping any premise that to criticize Israel is not anti-Semitic. They just dropped that whole premise. That's it. That's it. They're just going to full out make that equation. They cannot afford a reasoned conversation about Israel, because any reasoned conversation about Israel is going to come to the conclusion that Israel should not exist in the form that it exists as an apartheid ethno-state.
Right. Exactly. And, you see back there the same narrative that we heard 5-6 months back. Let's see. That came out yesterday night. Let's see what Morning Joe has to say about that this morning. Let's see which guests they bring on to give their take on that, if they cover it at all. Bill Maher has a banger panel this Friday. We're going to get some material out of this. You know who Bill Maher's guests are? RFK, Scott Galloway, and Don Lemon. Now, when Don Lemon is your most based panelist, that's how you know that is a panel from hell. Don Lemon is the brains of that panel.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And Bill Maher, of course, is not going to help. You can imagine. RFK is probably the one-on-one interview, and then he's going to have Galloway and Don Lemon on the panel. But wow, let's see. Like, you're going to see a blitz of utter contemptible bullshit. And the people standing in opposition to it are these very brave 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. And that's why if you can get to one of these encampments, go there, film it, spread the word. It's a very discouraging thing to see all of our work to dismantle this pro-Israel narrative seemingly getting undone in these past couple weeks. And I understand that can be extremely demoralizing. It's been a demoralizing week. We're out there canvassing for a post-duopoly candidate, having conversations with real people, with real problems, and we're feeling good, we're feeling inspired, and then we check our phones. Oh, the $95 billion bill passed. Oh, the TikTok ban passed. Oh, look, the cops are going in and arresting people. Like, this was a week that really tests the resolve of the movement, because this is a week where we've no doubt suffered major setbacks. And when you have the permanent state apparatus on your side, it's very easy to just undo a lot of grassroots momentum. But the only thing we can do is keep it going. And so if you can get to one of these protests, get to one of these protests. But if you can't get to one of these protests, it is equally important that you share videos like the one we're about to share with you now, which is of, go ahead.
And remember, it could be worse. Anyone with any knowledge of the Vietnam era can see the parallels here. And you could definitely argue their situation was worse then, because you're coming out of that World War II very patriotic America. Here, it seems like, at least from the polling, a good portion of the public caught wise pretty fast to the fact that Israel is not what they've been told that it was. Whereas with Vietnam, that took many, 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 many years before you could get the America of that era to say this was a mistake. And in fact, it really wasn't the protesters. It was Walter Cronkite. Everybody trusted Walter Cronkite. And when he went on the air and said this is not winnable, it changed the whole public discourse. Now, those protesters had put that in the air. They had forced that question. But America had such a belief in its institutions at that time that it took a spokesperson for its institutions saying that to really change public opinion.
That is true. And we do have tools on our side, like social media, like what I was just talking about. We're going to play a video in a second. So we have tools that we can use that previous generations could not use. They have censorship, right? This is why.
Although I'll say on the downside, you couldn't do back then what Columbia just did. You couldn't shut down classes and put them online.
Right.
Like
well,
that's a new wrinkle.
But the social media censorship is a big problem, and it's a problem that is a response to the power of social media, right? So they give you one tool, and then they'll try to take it away as best they can while maintaining some pretext of a free society and a First Amendment-based, value system, right? But yeah, censorship is going to get worse. It already is getting worse. We had comments turned off on the video, which the guy's wife, it'd be one thing. I mean, this wouldn't even be a case, but it would be one thing to say if like she didn't want to be filmed and a hostile person filmed her and put it online and people were dunking on her.
Yeah. Even it wouldn't be a case. You're in public.
It wouldn't be a case. You're in public. You chose to make a public statement, right? You would have no case there. But at least in there, you would be like, okay, maybe this is mean. Now, people have a right to be mean. It's not harassment. You went to make a public statement. If you were filmed and people have a problem with you, that's fair game. This wasn't even that. This was, you put this out there. You volunteered yourself to be filmed and put online because you thought it was going to, create this great response in your mind, and it turned out going sideways. So they will try and censor this stuff as best they can, which is why, and we're not going to open, I don't want to open this can of worms now, especially since I have a hard out this morning, since my kids are getting their pictures taken at school and I can't be late. That's why I have my nice spring button down ready. Okay. But this is why, I'm sorry, Brianna Joy Gray, you're fighting with Matt Taibbi at a time like this where now you see the censors have turned on the left. And it was always going to be that the censors would turn on the left when the left did something meaningful. These ceasefire protests are meaningful. The dipshit PSYOP Bernie Sanders campaign turns out, was not meaningful. I don't blame you for getting sucked in. I did too, right? No judgment there. But you see now how, censorship is, of course, so obviously an issue that is germane to the left, because that's how they're going to crush this now. That's how they're going to try. They're going to let Netanyahu spread that video around with outright lies, lie after lie after lie. They're not going to take that off of social media. They're going to take our kinds of videos off of social media. Videos perhaps even like this. Let me show you this. So this is a video that I encourage you to share around here. This is a Jewish student at Columbia University saying, "I feel fine."
A Jewish student at Columbia. When we talk about anti-Semitism on campus, that's taking the spotlight away from Gaza, away from Palestine, and the Palestinian students on campus, and putting it back onto me. I am perfectly safe here, and this has all been a distraction because they don't want us talking about the non-stop massacre of Gaza, of Palestinian civilians being taken out by the IDF. I grew up being taught that Israel was an important part of my Jewish identity, and part of being a Jew was supporting Israel. I was raised Zionist, and then I met a Palestinian for the first time and heard their perspective, and was able to realize that I was on the wrong side of this, that I'd been taught the wrong side of this. To me, calling in the police was an act of desperation. They know where the students stand. They saw the students come together to support their suspended and arrested friends. We see that other universities are following in our footsteps, and we welcome them. We just want to make sure that they do it in solidarity with Gaza and with Palestine, and that the focus is not on us. But we hope that this can be an important step in the liberation of Palestine and an end to the occupation and an end to the genocide.
I love that kid, man.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Good for him.
Good for him. So, folks, what do you think? You think that video is going to get airtime on CNN this week, on MSNBC this week, or you think the Netanyahu video is going to get airtime? You think they'll show that video or a video like it in response to Netanyahu's libelous accusations, ironically, to use that word, to borrow that word? I mean, so, look, it's a very discouraging thing to see work being undone, but that's the game. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time. And so you can't have your spirit broken by a week like this, even though it is tempting to give in to that feeling, right? You just have to keep getting the message out. Look, the turn, the momentum that we created to get the president emeritus of the Council of Foreign Relations to say on a Morning Joe panel, we need to sanction Israel. If we could do that once, we could do it again, right? Like you see the power of that. So it's not lost, but it's lost if we take this week as a cue that, well, we're fucked anyway, so what's the point? You can't ever fall into that. It's very easy to. I don't blame you, but you have to resist that. And as long as these kids are out there putting their ass on the line, then we can be there with them.
Don't take the black pill, kids.
Exactly.
It's poison.
Yeah.
No. Hey, man. We are not here. I've said this before. Like, really, if we're just going to shit talk, I'd rather have one of those, like, Disney channels.
Yeah,
I would rather do
movies.
that.
Right.
I would rather do that. Like, oh, you see what they just did with Phase 5? I would do that, man. It's less stressful. They're not going to take you down for that. Right?
You're not going to have maniacs trolling you as hard. Although some, but not as hard.
Some people getting their feelings about that shit. But But yeah, it's not as serious. The stakes aren't as high. You don't have to worry you're going to get fucking garroted on the way to the bodega by a Mossad agent.
Yeah, right.
These things don't come up. You're going to meet with an accident.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So yeah, no, I mean it has to have some real world component. Like, this is where we discuss theory and ideas and solidarity, where we build solidarity and support each other in this terrible fight against enormously powerful forces. But part of that is this, man, out on the street. There's no substitute for that.
Absolutely not. All right, Scotch, thanks for the $2. Tesla is to cars what Trump University was to education. Yeah, here you go. Thank you. Ian DeMartino, as a fan of the late, great Abby Hoffman, I feel the movement lacks fun and humor. You and Jimmy Dore Show are bringing back some of that. Pegasus the Immortal 2024. You're right. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is a critique that Taibbi had of the left a while ago. He says, you notice that there's no good art coming out of it. There's no good comedy coming out of it. Like, yeah, it's a version of the, no revolution without dancing. You have to be able to have fun. And so much of like the new left is anti-fun. Like that's the best way of putting it. Right.
Well, it's they're like all religious fanatics. They are deeply suspicious of anyone having too much of a good time.
Yes, and they seem to be anti-laughter. They really do. Like I said this, like when I interviewed, there were a bunch of Jacobin writers who we interviewed at the early days of the show, and they were nice to come on, so I don't want to shit talk them too much. But trying to get a laugh out of those people is it's like pulling fucking teeth.
Well, yeah.
They don't laugh. They don't have fun.
You're only allowed to laugh at stuff that's not actually funny. Hannah Gadsby going, "Yes, I'm a lesbian." That's not funny. What's funny about that?
Right. Exactly.
The only things that are supposed to be funny are things that are affirmations of, attacks on white male patriarchy, but it's not funny. Like you're just laughing as a virtue signal to show people that you're in empathy with the message. That's not funny.
Right. It can't be funny because even when you take the politics out of it, it can't be funny for the fundamental reason that it's not surprising. Like you only want to hear what you expect to hear.
Yes.
And so something that you don't expect to hear puts you on edge, right? You don't like hearing something that you're not expecting. Well, the core mechanics of comedy, what's central to it is surprise.
Right.
George Carlin said in an interview, he said, people say I'm a shock comic. He said, I don't seek to shock people, but I never took that criticism seriously because he put it so well. He said, shock is just a heightened form of surprise, and comedy requires surprise to work. Right. So shock is that jolt, that irony, that instant irony that you recognize, and it triggers a laugh, an organic response. If you're only interested in hearing certain things, you only want to hear what you expect to hear, it's very difficult to have a sense of humor.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. We're funny enough. So he's back on the docket. We're not in the dock. We have Ryan Long on Jimmy on Monday, and to me, he's one of the funniest people around right now. And that's partly because he went against that tide, and when it was hard to do. When it was hard to do, he was really challenging these ideas, and he's doing very well. He's got a huge following, so we'll get into some of these things with him.
Yeah, like yesterday, like when we were riffing with Kurt on Mike Johnson visiting the campus protest. I won't repeat some of the NC-17 stuff that he said, but like I made the joke. Well, maybe he'll find his place under the beer pong table, and like. That's the kind of thing that triggers a laugh if you're loose. If you say, well, that's objectifying.
That's homophobic.
Yeah, it's homophobic, or it's objectifying, or, then if you are put back on your heels by a comment like that, you're not going to laugh because your mind just doesn't respond in that way. It's not open in that way.
You're not allowed.
Exactly. Right. You're not allowed. Mr. Quigley, thanks for the $20. In the morning, gents, curious to hear about how y'all met Jimmy and how about the initial conversation about co-hosting a show went. Have been loving the content and coverage. Keep up the great work. Thank you. we got to know Jimmy the old-fashioned way. We invited him on the show, and we had a good time on the show, and we kept in touch. You know, Jimmy is very accessible for a person as prominent as he is. Like, there aren't too many people as famous as he is who like get to know him a little bit, and he'll like start reaching out. Like a lot of people, at his level are understandably more guarded. It's not too often you'll meet a person with that high profile who like 5 months later you're doing a podcast from his guest house. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just that. It was pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, you have these podcast hosts who will criticize him. And, Nick made this point when I brought them on in my first guest hosting gig. Any of you people helping us out? Any of you people supporting these smaller channels?
Right.
No, you're not. You're not. Even the ones that are ideologically aligned with you, because you're fucking snobby PMC motherfuckers. You don't have any time for people who aren't rich fucking pricks like you.
Unfunny pricks. Yeah.
Unfunny pricks, exactly.
When's the last time Kyle made you laugh? Or Crystal made you laugh?
No,
or Sagar made you laugh? Or Brianna Joy Gray made you laugh? We've given Brianna props on the show for when she's right. She's good on this issue. I got no problem giving her credit for that. She's not funny. She's not funny.
No, I find her actually, aside from her horrible takes, I find her pretty boring. I find all of them boring. They're all boring. Like they don't. Crystal has some charisma. No. Most of them don't. Most of them.
They're pros. Like they're competent, but they're not interesting.
They're boring. But I'll say, Jimmy is incredibly open and welcoming. I said this because I think he was, clearly was checking us out to see if we're solid guys and he wants to work with us. So we both had dinner with him separately because I was out of town and at different times. And I said to Keaton afterwards, I was like, listen, man, it's not that I'm not a snob, but I am pretty private. And I will tell you, if I were where Jimmy is, there's no way I'd be doing that.
Oh yeah,
no way. I'm just not that kind of a person. It's not out of like not liking people. I'm just too introverted to be like, hey, you want to go have dinner? Like I would not be doing that.
Yeah, and like meeting him and having an off the record like conversation is where you really get a sense of who the person is. Because I've met people before who have a public personality, and the public personality doesn't always match what they are in real life. Like I had lunch with Andrew Yang a while back because my friend used to work for him, and he was a perfectly nice guy, but he's not the chipper, smiley guy that he is on camera. He's a more quiet and subdued person. Sure. But Jimmy, he was the exact same. It was like I was in his show. Like he's the exact same person offline than he is online, and that's probably why I think a lot of these feuds get bitter, because people who accuse him of grifting, if you spend 5 minutes with the guy, you can tell whether you agree with him or not. Like that ought to put to rest any sense that he doesn't mean everything he says.
That's it. That's what I really
you can recognize that he is sincere. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's really strange. Like once you spend time with him, it really puts a lot of those feuds in a different perspective. Because if you sat down with Jimmy and he's on the phone, oh yeah, hey, how are you, Mr. Biden? Yeah, what's going on? What can I do for you?
Right.
But you sit down with him, and clearly he believes everything he's saying on the show. So then the question becomes, how do so many of these people that spend so much time with him go out there and claim that he's grifting?
Right.
You could go out there and claim, I think, not that I would agree with it, but you could go out and claim, I think he's doing damage to the public by spreading this misinformation. Okay, at least that's an honest argument. But to argue he's grifting, there's no way you could spend time with that guy and think he doesn't mean what he's saying.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Bonzo Beans, I'm still baffled by your apparent blind spot regarding the pandemic information and opinion management in 2020, 2022. Israel censorship is minor league.
There's no blind spot. What do you mean?
Are we not saying?
I'll tell you, this much is true. Because when all that was happening, it was such a censorious environment. We never really made a habit of covering it. And I think that's somewhat carried over. Like we just didn't develop real expertise on it at the time because we couldn't cover it anyway. And,
Sure.
And now it's kind of in the past. So when we talk about it, though, I mean, yes, we recognize that. We just tend not to focus on it. And I think that's why I think it's a knock-on effect from the fact that we couldn't cover it at the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. But the other thing I would add, look, the pandemic, just like 9/11, just like any major event, there's a narrative that gets enforced and they censor around that narrative. Ukraine, same thing. January 6th, same thing. But what's shocking about this and why I tweeted that this is an unprecedented crackdown on speech is the speed at which the narrative falls apart and locks back in. That's what was jarring about this. Those other events, you can't really say that. There was one narrative that they kept in, right? And as time went on, the leaks started coming out. This was about January 6th, about the pandemic, about Ukraine, about 9/11, about the Iraq war, right? There's a narrative, and then the narrative broadens as time goes on. Here you had a narrative about this war. Israel, support Israel. Any criticism of Israel means you're an anti-Semite. Then it swings entirely in the other direction. We need to sanction Israel. We need to cut off arms sales to Israel. Then Iran airstrike, Rafah invasion, whoosh, back in. Just bam, quick. That is what I mean by an unprecedented crackdown on discourse. Obviously, censorship is not unprecedented. That happens all the time. But I've never seen these forces just lock back into place over the period of 48 hours, where clearly there was a phone call made to Joe Scarborough. Okay, you're allowed to criticize them. Now, 3 days later, never mind, back on message. Boom. That's what I mean by that. That's what I meant by unprecedented.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if anyone has any doubt that they get orders, look at how that played out.
Exactly.
It's not organic. It's just that could not happen any other way than top-down direction.
Exactly. As a child of the 60s, there was also a spiritual element to the Vietnam protest that is needed now. Thank you for that, Pete. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to take some super chats before we close the lights on today's show. Eric Rousseau, Lorena Bobbitt, edition Tesla Cybertruck. Thank you. Happy Elbay Day, everyone. Yes, that was 1945, I believe, right? So what was that, 80-something years, 70-something years, whatever that is? Thank you, Terry. Costs of EVs are a problem for people. I purchased a non-EV in 2022. EV of a truck cost over $70K. People not earning that income say no. No.
That's an element of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Think about it. Ever since he bought Twitter, ... Interesting. Jason, hi from Oz. Great to have caught a live stream for once. What time is it over there? Haha. Somebody said so in the chat earlier. I forget. It's late at night, right?
Well, just to not ignore the previous tweet, you could also say that's because he's distracted. I think the person is suggesting they're sabotaging him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I could be wrong, but you could also say that's because he's not paying as much attention.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah, and I didn't mean to ignore it. I just didn't know where he was going. Aziz, thanks for the $5. The pro-Palestine protesters have whack jobs like queer Marxists among them, but they don't shout death to the Jews. That is a lie. No, they don't shout that. Of course, they're careful not to. Not only do they not do it, they are very careful not to do it. And when someone shows up with a provocative sign, like we mentioned earlier, they tell them, don't hold that up because you're going to embarrass the movement. Feels like Fallout is the not too distant future. Yeah, thank you, Nick. I said it, so it makes it all true. Death threats against Jews on campus, beheaded babies, the rapes. Pay no attention to the retractions. BB. Thank you, P. Walker. I could use a dose of Buddy Hackett about now. Thank you, Dodger. Police state already cracked down on USC protests. Well, they canceled the valedictorian from USC. They had a Palestinian valedictorian, and they wouldn't let her talk. Let's see. As Jewish, I don't trust Matt Taibbi. As a Jewish man, I don't trust that. He is silent on current ME conflict, Middle East conflict. Looks like how he was making money 90s selling stories to Playboy. All right.
Well, okay, man. I didn't want to reveal this. This is an outtake from our interview with Matt Taibbi. We were going to do a big segment, but since you bring it up. Those are his kids. He's got like 5 kids.
Yeah, that's
really.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might be onto something there.
Luna DeSol, thanks for the $49.99. Let's get a cowbell for you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. There's our cowbell. There we go. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Judy, thanks for the $4.99. I found Garland Nixon's interview with Laith Maroof encouraging. Check it out. Thank you for that, Judy. Appreciate that very much. All this over sensitive shit is a product of American privilege. Yes,
I would fully agree with that. I always think to myself, damn, man, 3 days without food trucks coming to the city, all this stuff goes away.
Right. Yep. Random McTurkey, love the show. Keep it up, boys. We will keep it up, Random McTurkey, and thank you, but we will not keep it up any longer today. That is the end of our program. Thank you guys all very much for being here. Please hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button on the way out over on Rumble. You can catch us tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on the Jimmy Dore Show. Back here on the main channel at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Sunday, 1 p.m. matinee patron supporter stream. So if you sign up at patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or DoDissidents.locals.com, you will get a double header this Sunday, second double header in a row for the Sunday audience. So Patreon, Substack, or Locals, perks are the same across all 3 platforms. They help sustain this show in a huge way. Huge way. Now that you see, we devoted a lot of time this morning to talking about the censorship blitz. The way to safeguard this operation from that kind of censorship is to become a member. So if you're hitting us up with super chats every show, take $5 of that super chat money, become a member, you get perks on top of that, and you, in that way, help us maintain this show no matter what happens on the censorship front between now and November. We told you they were going to come, and they're on their way. So if you want to help us protect this operation and keep putting out as many programs as we do, the best way to do that, by far, bar none, is to become a member. Patreon, Substack, or Locals. Please and thank you very much. All right, that's our program for today.
And also remember, we are live streaming the June 9th show. So if you can't make it there, if you're a member, you will get an exclusive live stream.
That's right. You'll get virtual access to our live stream shows. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you very much for being here. We will see you tomorrow on Jimmy's show. Sunday back here on our show. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.